What's up, guys? Terry Foy here at Inside Lacrosse headquarters. We are talking about the Week 1 Kane Footwear Men's Division 1 media poll. Kevin Brown, Matt Kinnear, Dan Aber, Dan Kaplan. Big story from Week 1. Johns Hopkins Blue Jays are 3-0 after stacking wins, opening up at Denver, beating Towson at Towson in a midweek game, and then beating Georgetown on the weekend. Dan, you were there. What were your takeaways from the Blue Jays?
Yeah, Blue Jays, 3 ranked wins in 3 games and searching to the top 5 this week. I thought that this game against Georgetown, an 11-6 win to the Blue Jays, this was the type of game that Hopkins wants to play and wants to win right. Lead with their defense and then have their offense wear down the opponent through long, patient possessions, a very efficient shoot to 11 goals on 25 shots in this game. The narrative coming into this season was that Hopkins lost everybody, right? Tons of seniors and grad students on this team gone. But just watching this team play, it looks so much more mature and experienced than I think we gave them credit for, right? Especially when you look at the play of two Sawhorns in particular. Hunter Chalvet is scoring boatloads of goals for them. And then Quentin Kilrain on the other end of the field playing defense. Yeah, Hopkins is good. And I think that game against North Carolina, and I think 2 weeks, we're getting weeks large now. Yeah, they're very worthy of that top 5 ranking.
Yeah, and going back to Towson, I like them winning ugly. I think it's important in February to win a game that maybe you're not playing your best. You're playing an opponent that, maybe they should have won by 5 goals in that game. They didn't. They had a team that hung around too long, but, when they needed a stop at the end of the game, they got it. They did a really good job of getting Towson's offensive personnel stuck back on D, something I think we're going to see as a theme for them the rest of the year. They faced a good amount of zone, which is a early theme to this season so far, the number of teams that are throwing in zones early. And what I took away from that was the personality of Luke Stout, kind of being the backstop of that defense playing goal. We talked to him post-game, and real gregarious personality, talkative, kind of a contrast to the rest of the guys in the sense that, he was just so, energetic and bright and kind of out there, whereas I think it's a little bit more of a, insular kind of program. But Luke Stout really, I thought, was a bright spot in his voice that he gives that deep.
And I think his emergence is quite a story because I think when we saw what they did in the fall going into the season, that starting job as goalie was very much up for grabs, I thought. And so for him to come in these first 3 games and really settle that defense down and act as the experienced person that he was brought in the program to be is huge for them.
One of the other big stories for the week, Kev, you were at Maryland's overtime victory over Loyola. That was a surprising result in a number of ways. The first being that Maryland was held to 2 goals through 3 quarters. The second being that they totally flipped the script in the fourth. They started dodging harder and found some cracks in Loyola's defense that was doing a nice job of flipping between man and zone, as Matt mentioned, one of the storylines of this early season so far. And that Max Watkinson, the freshman goaltender, had played really well to that point, and they kind of figured him out a little bit. But ultimately, it wasn't everything because Loyola found a game-tying goal with 2 seconds left from Keenan Everhard, and ultimately that's the game winner. What did you see out of the Terps, and how did that game unfold in overtime?
Yeah, you wouldn't really expect too close of a game coming up against the Loyola team that finished below 500, 7-8 last season, coming off a 13-6 win against Georgetown. Maybe Maryland gets a nice, comfortable win like they did against Richmond, building off that season-opening win. But as John Tillman alluded to post-game, the Greyhounds are tough to beat in their home openers at Ridley Athletic Complex. The 2023 upset over the Terps comes to mind as a big one, coming off that historic 2022 undefeated season. And then just last year, they handily defeated the Hoyas in a game that I also covered. So Tillman and company knew to this was going to be a tough one coming in, and they still couldn't score for 3.5 quarters. Shout out Eric Spanos. He really got it going. He was the hot hand in that fourth quarter to kind of lead them. And he had 4 goals total, 4 of 8 shooting. And just the story of the game for me was Matthew Keegan's redemption. He kind of had a gumball right to Max Watkinson, sweeping left across the middle.
Which is never a good thing, but it's especially not good for a Maryland team that values quality shots more than as like on a delta basis more than most other teams. So I could imagine that was going to be a very difficult film session on Monday if he didn't find redemption.
He found it in that overtime period. He gets the ball back from Brayden Urksa and goes to work. People were calling out the slide from Loyola, but it's just a great play overall from Keegan after you saw Keenan Everhart talking about made a play. The coaches exchange timeouts. What an exciting ending. Just end line restart. Go make a play. Go make it happen. Gets to his right before the buzzer, like you said. 1 to 2 seconds left on the clock to send into overtime. So just an insane finish at Ridley and Maryland. I came away more impressed that they could escape a result like that. Being battle tested and surviving those challenges are, I think, more impressive than if a subpar Spiders performance in week 0.
Kevin, you were at this game, and Eric Spanos 4 goals, and 3 then came kind of in a span of, I want to say about 5 minutes of gameplay there. He was a little quiet in the Richmond game. He played his role. That's not really necessarily a knock on him. He just was part of the bigger machine. Do you see this as like a sign that if Maryland needs to, Eric Spanos can be the guy that takes over a game?
I asked him as much post game. He was pretty selfless. He deflected attention away from himself, but you can see it throughout the game. Like, this was an offense that struggled for the majority of the game, and he's going up to his teammates, "Hey, we still got this. We're in this." You could see him pen his line mates on the back, but he is that veteran leader down there now, and is more of a I think some possessions he would want back as kind of the swing man to get it to the backside, and maybe he was taking a little bit too much time on some of those, but he really made up for it late with that fourth-quarter hat trick. And I do think he is a leader that when the going gets tough, I think a lot of last year you saw was Brayden Urksa, like in that Brown overtime win, he kind of took over late. This year, that Spanos coming in with confidence and doing that, I think is a B+.
Cap, what was your takeaway from the week, Deb?
So from the weekend in general, I think it was just a really fun weekend of lacrosse. Like, I remember at one point scrolling the scoreboard, and there were like 4 or 5 one-goal games, like generally competitive games. And Utah Delaware was one that was definitely really exciting. Especially early, I feel like I always get swept away by someone's defense. Like, someone comes along and is playing a really good brand of ball on that side of the ball, and it kind of sweeps me away. Right now, I feel like I have that with Johns Hopkins, so like I got to digest a little bit of that and enjoyed that. But yeah, I think just in general, to give you one kind of overarching feel or take from the weekend, and it's just a really fun weekend of lacrosse and a good one to be a Division I lacrosse fan.
Yeah, and I would say that the Delaware Utah game set the standard for drama this season very high.
So let me jump in there, because that was definitely that'll be my memory from week 1. And so just if you didn't see it, here's what happened. Delaware scores to go up with 2 goals left, or 2 minutes left. They go up a goal. Utah calls a stick check on Blue End's face-off specialist, Logan Premtage. He gets assessed a 3-minute non-releasable penalty. Utah immediately gets the ball because there is no face-off after the penalty is assessed, and they score to tie it on extra man 14 seconds later. So you have a man-down goal. It's a non-releasable penalty, so you have a man-down face-off. Delaware comes out, O.J. Morez, and wins the face-off. Over the course of the next, let's call it 45-ish, 50 seconds, Delaware twice calls timeout to save possession, because Utah's thinking, we were so efficient on our extra man. If we can just get the ball back, we're going to win this game. But that was a big deal.
Timeout.
Because they had taken a timeout coming out of halftime, and so the broadcasters thought that they only had 1 timeout left. So when they called the second one, everybody was like, what was the deal? Turns out, this is a little known rule, if you have a timeout left at the end of the first half, you can use it before the end of halftime, and it counts towards your first half total, keeping your 2 timeouts. So Delaware gets the ball, and you obviously have something you want.
I have a timeout that I have to pose to you guys, but one of those Delaware timeouts is below GLE. So we were saying right away, like,
you're up a guy and the ball's starting below GLE, you can start with the goalie out. They can't just shoot it. So you could have started with a triple on the ball, and right there would have given you the best opportunity to put it on the ground. And that was when that was the one that ended up being Carmer split into both.
That's just another man for Bennett Pardo. Knock over.
And that's exactly what he is. So you got a freshman midfielder, a true freshman midi, scored his 4th goal of the game on man down after going absolute beast mode to get from below GLE, swings all the way near side, gets top side, and scores the go-ahead goal. But the drama did not end there because Utah had 2. So Delaware wins another man-down face-off, but Utah gets the ball back quickly, and then they have 2 opportunities. The first one, Kevin Ellington saves. I think it was his 15th save of the game. And then Delaware can't effectively clear, but when Utah brings the ball down in that moment, didn't quite understand how much time was left. They didn't really get a good look before time expired, but it was unbelievable.
Stick check of a face-off guy. What's our verdict on that?
Ball don't lie.
I love the move. I love the move from the coach. I do think, and this is something that Larkin Kemp is going to write about in his column this week. I do think there needs to be clarification of whether you could even just do it for the face-off guy, because basically the stick is going to be illegal 90% of the time. But I love a coach doing it. If you are in that situation and you need to win the game, you pull any trick you can out of your hat, unless you try to win the game. So you go do it. And Dan, I feel like
Unless it's raining. When it's raining, then you're not allowed to do it. But otherwise,
I don't know, because I so anti-unwritten rule. My thing is that if you
fine, then I'll write it.
that's what I'm saying. If you want it to be a rule, write it. And that's why I hate baseball. So I don't want lacrosse to deviate into baseball with all these ridiculous unwritten.
I agree. There needs to be a written rule because, you can't hate the coach for calling the stick check. I mean, does everyone agree with you?
actually very few call it. And I think they should call it. Were you involved in a game where this happened? Not me personally, but I've watched. That. The biggest thing though is just the face-off guys have to have legal sticks. It's not a rule for everyone besides them. Every time they go and take a face-off and then they come up and it's illegal, that is a problem in the game score period. They have to have legal sticks.
I know some coaches who very adamantly will agree with you right now and fight to the death about what exactly you just said, and that illegal stuff.
But the social media reaction is definitely ball don't lie. Definitely Utah was in the wrong for calling the stick check on the face-off guy.
Yeah, that's the more fun fan perspective.
For sure.
Yeah.
So they're
reasonable for these guys.
It's not the more reasonable.
I feel like Kevin's got the voice of the fan here.
No, listen, if you're, all credit to you, if you're down 1, you need a way to get back into this game, call the stick check. See what happens. It's
Just serve it up on a platter for Bennett Parmer.
right. And if that's what's going to happen, sometimes it's going to backfire, and Delaware, all credit to that.
I feel like if there was, it is going to become, okay, in a one-goal game, you're going to get the stick check called on you. You have a second stick that is, 100% going to pass all of it, even if it's just the only face-off you take all game with it. But late in the game, there's a increased chance that I'm going to get it called on me. Let me go grab my stick that I know for sure is legal.
Well, that's also one of the elements, is that it's still not that commonplace to call a stick check on the face-off guy when you're down 1 and in a desperate situation.
Yeah.
So maybe what it comes down to is you have to normalize calling the stick check on the face-off guy when you're down 1 with less than 2 minutes to go.
But it's also one of those, freedom of speech is not freedom of consequences. You know what I mean? If those guys, at the end of the game, they're not going to shake each other's hands or whatever, I'm cool with that too. It's one of those things of hey, it's your right to do it. It's in the rule book, but you have to deal with looking me in the eye after the game because you did it. So I just like more drama in the game anyway.
I will say it's way, way more acceptable than a glove check.
Yeah, let's go.
All right. Matt, last one. What was your big takeaway from week 1?
North Carolina. I think that
Tar Heels coming.
Tar Heels, I would buy North Carolina stock right now. I know that the storyline has been, can this team get over 500 after 2 straight years at 500? Winning a game in early February is not exactly you didn't prove anything yet. You just won one game against a team that was pretty much right next to you in the rankings. It was pretty convincing, though. There is a lot of just high energy. Like every goal felt like a juice goal for Carolina. Duffy and Petramala. Petramala just looks just so energetic and spry right now. The fact that they overcame adversity on the defensive end, and I thought they looked pretty good. Again, another team throwing out zone there, and showcase some depth. They got freshmen playing together at midfield lines. Their ride was awesome. I really feel like you gotta feel pretty confident that North Carolina. Obviously, when you get to the ACC, and who are they going to beat? Virginia, Duke, Notre Dame, or Syracuse? Certainly, I don't know if we'll have to see a little bit more evidence. I'm not necessarily picking them against any of those teams. But if they play Duke tomorrow, I'd take them to beat Duke. Yeah, I say it's a coin flip at this point. And I'm buying stock. I think they're going to be better. I think that they're going to be markedly better than they were in, April, May last year, this year. So
I was going to say, I think the big takeaway from it is that Carolina might be third, and you also they'd just be. I think a lot of it rests on how the offense performed. Just a 9-goal differential here with Duffy's back, hopefully fully healthy and playing his best one. Like four goals, I think, in this game.
4 and 2.
Yeah, 4 and 2. And having Petramala, who's also dealt with injuries in the past, and looked just as good. I think it's just huge for their stabilization on the offensive end.
All right. That's it. We won in the books. Make sure to check out InsideLacrosse.com all week as we've got midweek games. And, of course, next Saturday we get back at it with Week 2. We'll be back a week from now to talk about Week 2's Kane Media Poll. Thanks, everybody.